And never before have we spent more money or been more focused on the prevention of violence against women. And yet the problem only seems to be getting worse. Just this morning, another woman has been found dead, taking this year's toll to 29. So what is going wrong?
Well, men do need to take responsibility.
I want to see more men get into that discussion.
In response to a wave of fear and fury,
he killed our sister while she was out running.
Men and their attitudes to women have been in the spotlight.
Men need to be prepared to call this out.
Men need to step up.
Prevention through cultural change, a key cornerstone of the government's $2.3 billion 10-year national plan to end violence against women.
We need to change the culture, we need to change attitudes.
And a key focus of tomorrow's National Cabinet meeting, called in response to Australia's growing tally of murdered women.
Enough is enough! Enough is enough!
Changing people's attitudes about women and about gender equality is one of the key planks of how we're going to drive change. Importantly, there are other things that can be done as well, working on our policies, working with people who are perpetrators.
But there are concerns our current prevention strategy is falling short.
It's not enough to tell men just to step up. We need to back that up with programs on the ground.
The battle to change attitudes is slow and some say ineffective.
We can't just wait for some time 30 years in the future where we might solve it by having conversations about respect. There are concrete interventions that we need to make now.
I think the opportunity that's in front of us now, with so much momentum across the community and with a cabinet being called for tomorrow, is to look at all the work that's going on and see where things can be accelerated.
Some experts are now pushing for a greater focus on practical prevention measures, targeting the biggest contributors to male violence.
The big elephants in the room, things like alcohol, gambling, the unrestricted access young men and boys have to hardcore pornography.
This is an issue which is long-term, does require attitudinal change, but we also need practical, immediate measures and responses.
Today, as yet another woman, just 19 years old, was found dead in Sydney, it's been revealed that the number of women killed by a current or former partner spiked by nearly 30% last financial year. Intimate partner homicides on the rise, despite record levels of investment in prevention. So is it time we changed our approach?
This is not something that we have to live with forever. Domestic and family violence is a solvable problem.
Professor Michael Salter is a criminologist with expertise in gendered violence and he's calling for a change in approach. Michael, can you explain the connection between alcohol, porn and gambling and violence against women?
Broadly speaking, the Australian approach to preventing violence against women is focused on gender equality, which is really important. But within that kind of the broad parameters of gender equality, we've got a lot of forces working against us. We know that alcohol and the availability of alcohol has a relationship to the prevalence and the severity of violence against women. We know that gambling is a really pernicious stress on households. It's also a form of financial abuse, and too many women are waking up to find that the family bank account's been drained by a controlling partner. And last but certainly not least, pornography over the last 20, 25 years has become completely ubiquitous. We're seeing very early childhood exposure and it's impacting on rates of sexual violence and coercion, particularly amongst young people.
So are you suggesting the government should restrict access to alcohol, for example?
The government does regulate access to alcohol. The government controls how many bottle shops there are in your local area. The government controls what opening hours are and closing hours are. We know that the less alcohol there is available in the community, the less violence there is. And the government knows that too, because when they have to drop violence, as they did recently because of emergency conditions in Alice Springs, the first thing that they did was turn off the alcohol spigot because it works.
Then why doesn't the government act on this?
These are very powerful and influential industries, and they make governments very nervous because if the government picks a political fight with these industries, they do fight back, and that can have electoral consequences for the government. So there's been a tendency to shy away, I think, from some of the political fights and push responsibility for the prevention of violence against women downstream to more easy targets.
Professor, what sort of young boy grows up to be a man that carries out these acts?
What we always need to bear in mind is that every domestic violence perpetrator in the country was once a little boy who never imagined that he would grow up and hurt the people that he cares about the most. So something has gone wrong. What we know is that 2 in 5 Australian children grow up witnessing domestic violence. We know that just under 1 in 3 Australian children are sexually abused before the age of 18. And for a lot of domestic and family violence perpetrators, they do have a history of child maltreatment and trauma. And that's something that if it's not addressed and if they're not supported to recover, for some men and boys, not all, that can increase the risk that they're going to go on to hurt their partner, their children.
You said something else that I found really fascinating, actually. I hadn't thought about it this way, and that is that if men's violence isn't prevented or treated, then it tends to spread like an infectious disease. Like, I hadn't thought of a contagion effect. Why?
Men's violence is traumatic. It has an injurious effect on the psychology of the people who are subject to it, and also a physiological effect. You know, it impacts health not only because it's physically harmful, but also levels of stress and anxiety over a long period of time actually alters the body as well. So, you know, men's violence has this traumatic effect that's showing up through high rates of mental health and mental illness, through compromised parenting. And it does increase for some people the chance that they will go on to perpetrate violence. So thinking about men's violence as a kind of infectious epidemic, I think really focuses our attention on the prevention opportunities, and that includes treatment. It means that the people who have been exposed to that violence have the right to the restoration of their health and have the right to make sure this doesn't happen to them again. It's not just about stopping men from using violence in the first place, although obviously that's a priority.
All right, Michael, we appreciate your thoughts. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.